Joining us this morning, Titania Jordan.
Tatiana Jordan. Did I get the name right? Jordan?
Titania.
Titania. Okay.
Titania. All right. It's Titania Jordan. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Connect. I'm here with David Essary, CEO at Accord Systems. What does that mean?
Well, on a daily basis, it means I'm responsible for the public perception of a software company based in Alpharetta, Georgia. We have an interesting story how we came together, but our daily job in the service we perform is we do reporting and filing for the Affordable Care Act for mid to large size employers.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is no small bag of chips.
Nope. and we, as you can imagine, we exist in a space that's been a political hot potato. So from one day to the next, you don't know if you're going to exist or not.
Yep.
And so, rallying the troops and saying we're going to be here, we have a plan, or we can pivot, and all that kind of stuff is part of the plan.
I love how we went from a bag of chips to a potato.
Right.
It's like,
right.
Didn't even plan that
Perfect.
one. That was good.
Yeah.
Wrapping your brain around the Affordable Health Care Act and how it impacts corporations. I mean, that's a whole lifelong case study right there.
It is. It's mostly for employers. It's added another level of work, typically on the human resource department, which if you dial back 10, 12 years to kind of the beginning of the economic downturn and what's happened, historically large employers, when they go through cuts, the human resource department typically gets hit pretty hard. And so one of the things that's happened with healthcare and benefits in general over the last 15 years is we're asking those people to do a lot more with less. So you have less people trying to do more, less resources. And so the Affordable Care Act in 2010 kind of added a whole new degree of that. And not only just the administrative and compliance side of it, but having to architecturally change benefits that you offer your employees because there were mandates on them to do things and provide coverage to people they hadn't done previously. It was a lot, and you're asking people in a very short period of time to absorb all of that, relate how it is going to impact their employees, and then hopefully do the right thing and make a decision. So,
And their bottom line.
Bottom line, absolutely. And for the most part, it has added a significant amount of cost to employers. So
that is no easy task thrown into an already full plate.
Yep.
And so let's reinforce the value proposition of Accord Systems again.
Yep, so software as a service, and basically a lot of that compliance related work, literally from the data aggregation that's required to do all of that reporting and compliance work into kind of one place, making sense of it. There are a lot of specific rules around it, how the data looks, what data elements are there, and then ultimately reporting that up to the IRS to remain in compliance. We basically created a software as a solution system that allows us to do that from front end to back end all the way through the IRS piece. So it's traditional business process outsourcing in a very niche market.
That is so huge.
It's fun.
When did you start the company?
We started as an idea in late January of 2015. We got to market by June of 2015. And then it was kind of, it's unusual in the business world to have a market that's mandated, and because the Affordable Care Act mandated employers that had at least 50 employees above to do this, it was a good time to be in the space and be one of few providers because we joke about it was almost taking orders in the fall of 2015, which that probably won't happen again in my career, where you've got a market that's looking for you versus you kind of trying to go out and sell yourself. So it was fun.
Lightning in a bottle.
It was lightning in a bottle, and to some extent there was some lightning and some clouds and some thunder that came with it, but you work your way through that. And the difficult part about that was, especially in season one, you're still trying to learn your way, you're integrating with customers, and then you would get these clarification bulletins from the IRS or the government, things like that would change the rules. And so I think the beauty of what we did is our guys built unbelievable software that we could easily pivot with those rules. It was very adaptive, and having competitors that weren't as adaptive made it for good times for us.
Nice, that differentiator is huge. So you didn't just wake up one day in 2015 with this brilliant idea and think, all right, going to be a game changer.
Yeah.
You know, what have you done that led you to that point?
So I used to work in the building that's attached to this one as an insurance broker, sales rep person. Left that in 2003 and had a very good career doing that. My parents, of course, thought I was insane for leaving a job that paid good money and to step out on my own with zero income. But I saw myself at that point in time. I was in my early 30s. I was not married, and I thought, you know, I want to do something bigger. And I always felt like I wanted to start my own business. And so I broke out into a related space that I was already in, which I would always suggest to those that are looking to make that transition from the corporate world into the entrepreneurial world, is stay close to a space that people know you. You already have a natural market, and there's going to be some association that you're not breaking into a space cold, because that's more difficult. So did that, and it just, you know, from taking the lumps and bruises of trying to start your own business and dealing with the income cuts, the family changes, the, you know, kind of waking up one day and going, was this the right decision? Waking up several days, and laying awake at night saying, was this the right decision? And then ultimately seeing that through and keeping the faith, and then seeing the success to ultimately get it to a point where we were able to sell it and go through that. There were so many lessons to be learned from things done wrong through that first path, that hopefully now that I'm in 3 to 4 to 5 variations of that again, that, you know, I can apply those lessons going forward. So.
Are there any lessons that you could share now with everybody watching?
I'd say that first one for certain of knowing who your market is, being a known commodity in a specific space, and breaking out in that space. I was thinking on the drive over here, I had this conversation with a partner on one of my ventures last night. I think the difficult thing we've had about that specific one is we're trying to create a market that doesn't know it exists today, because we're trying to do something fairly revolutionary, and everybody thinks of Uber and Facebook. They kind of created a market, and those are the phenomenal success stories. But for me, it's so much more logical and easy to look at something that could be better, that already exists, and kind of, in my mind, I'm a fixer, whether it's an old house, an old car, or something broken. You want to fix that and make it better. And so I think it's easier to look at a process in an industry you already exist in and have the intellectual capital on, say, we could make that better, and focus on that, because there's always a market for better.
Yes.
Process improvement, efficiencies, and things like that. So I think regardless of the industry that you exist in, just keeping your eyes open to those kind of things that are closest to you. And thank the Lord, there are people out there that have the vision to create new markets and build phenomenal things, but I think those are very much the exception.
Yeah, few and far between.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. I want to read your bio from LinkedIn, because it's super to the point. A lot of bios are just so fluffy. Yeah. I'm like, buzzword, 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 filler word, typical, okay, what do you do? But yours is...
Well, I wasn't looking for a job when I wrote it. Maybe that helped, right? Yeah.
My driving professional passion is searching for areas of the employee benefits and insurance spectrum ripe for improvement, and bringing technology solutions to major stakeholders in the industry. Like, mic drop.
Boom.
Yeah.
And I've stuck to that pretty much. And that is the center focus of what we do really at Accord. Although we have that compliance focus, that is our main product in the market. We have other products that are coming out and kind of right around the corner. And ultimately what we are is a software development shop for that space. So we look at process improvement that can be made in what's a historically fairly archaic technology space of insurance. That, you know, disruption is a term that's way overused right now, but it is certainly an industry that is ripe for that change that disruption brings. And, you know, everyone's kind of followed, in our space, has followed the story of Zenefits and what they did, and obviously the, you know, kind of the hockey stick growth and now what's going to happen sort of story. But they proved that there was a 150-year-old market that had been very stale, that was ready for change, and that there's probably some better ways, at least from a technology perspective, of addressing the markets out there for insurance. And so I think that was an eye-opener to those of us who, you know, it's easy when something like that happens and someone enters your space and has phenomenal success to sit back and kind of get angry and go, gosh, you know, we don't want them here, or that's really impacting our lives. Or you can learn from it and say, they've proven to us that there's opportunities to bring better ideas, process improvement, and a better story to a market that's already out there, which kind of goes back to what I was saying a few minutes ago. If you're in that space, and fortunately I've been in it now for 25 years, you kind of know how the processes work, and if you keep your thinking cap on and just keep your eyes open and listen, I think it's most important just to listen. Listen to your customers, listen to your partners, and listen for opportunities to find those areas to attack, and be as laser focused when you can in developing something for a specific need.
I love it. I want to read the second part of your bio now. It says, my philanthropic efforts center on helping the physical and developmentally challenged find opportunity and integration into society. Now, you have a personal vested interest in this second half. Would you like to talk about that?
Sure. So I have a 7-year-old Everly Jolene Essary, who is on the moderate to severe scale for autism. She's the sweetest thing in the world, and she's my heart and soul. And the day that she was diagnosed, which was February 28th of 2012, at about 9:30 in the morning, about 3/4 of a mile from here, you never forget that moment. And I remember, as an individual and as a person, prior to us living through that experience as a family, I was pretty driven, kind of probably overly so, worked too many hours, and my focus was on success, make money, try to build your business, that kind of thing. And it was such a life-changing event for me. And I think the one thing about her situation, my wife and I say this a lot, we wouldn't change anything about it except for her struggles.
Yeah.
Because that's obviously the most difficult part as a parent. I've used the analogy a lot of times with the autism disease. You feel like you're in a fist fight with a ghost. You swing, and every day you swing, and you're trying to hit something. You don't know whether you're making contact or not, and so you try a lot of stuff. But ultimately, she has made all of us around her better people. She taught me a level of patience and empathy that I didn't know I had in my DNA. And that has translated, obviously, personally, it's made me a better person, and I think it's made me more empathetic to the plight of others. But that translates into the business world as well. And ultimately, one of my goals, and I don't know when I'm going to get to this, is to try and write a book, and it may just be for therapeutic purposes for me that no one wants to read, but ultimately about where the loss of empathy in society has impacted the business world. Mm-hmm. You watch the employer-employee relationship, as I've seen it from my perspective, evolve over the last 25 years, or devolve over the last 25 years. And there is a level of lack of empathy there it's permeated in society, period. But the great thing about her situation is you realize that everyone, no matter how rich, poor, race, religion, all the stuff you want to pull into it, all have their struggles. Mm-hmm. And everyone's individual struggle is different. And I think if we could just for a second stop and take 2 seconds to recognize that everyone has their struggles, whether you do anything about it or not, that's a great first step. That recognition, it makes you empathetic to others, and it makes you think about your problems. And I think the thing it did for me, whether it's employees or people I'm interacting with, my daily business life or outside of business, is it just makes you realize that everyone has struggles, and that to them, their struggles are the biggest thing in the world. And so I think just being empathetic to that and being more caring and understanding, I would love to see more of that in the world. Yeah.
What are some ways that us watching out in the internet world can kind of pour into and help efforts for research, rehabilitation? Because a lot of times it's hard to know where to start because you are fighting a ghost.
You are, and I think that one of the great things that's happened, specifically in the autism fight in the last few years, is just that recognition. There's been a lot more press around the prevalence of it, which, there's arguments both ways. Is it just that there's more recognition of it and it's always existed, or truly is it something that the prevalence is getting more common? That attention has brought research, and with the research has brought the dollars, and so I think just making it a topic on everyone's minds, and it's not just autism, it's just special needs and disabilities in general. And back to kind of the LinkedIn profile, I'm very blessed to be chairman of the board now of the Bobby Dodd Institute here in town, and I got involved with them from a business perspective in the early 2000s, and then kind of grew into board positions prior to my daughter ever being born. And so if you believe that there's a plan and that God has his way of kind of creating your path, the fact that I was involved with that organization and then she was born into this special needs disability world has been, you know, it's been an interesting dynamic for the two of those to play out together. But you know, personally for me, in dealing in the human resource and employer world, what I would love to see in the mission of Bobby Dodd Institute is to provide more jobs for the disabled. Yes. We had our most recent board meeting last night, and there was a statistic that jumped off the page at me, and just using some general math and some assumptions, in the city of Atlanta alone, if you want to assume, I think 5.9 million people, that means there's approximately 790,000 disabled people in the city of Atlanta, of which less than 10% of those are employed.
Wow.
And so a lot of those, especially now, we have this emerging trend of the returning veterans who are physically disabled. And this includes both physically and developmentally challenged, but they want to work. And the quality of life that we all get, that some of us who don't appreciate our jobs as much may not realize, there's a quality of life that comes with being gainfully employed. And I would love to see, and we have some phenomenal employers in the community like Cox Enterprises close to here that have done a great job of being open to the disability and disadvantaged community and providing work for them, and some phenomenal success stories. I would love to see more employers embrace that.
Yes.
They make phenomenal employees. We have a variety of business models that we run through Bobby Dodd Institute, both for-profit and nonprofit, and call centers is a big piece of what we do. And we did some work for AT&T, and it was the highest rated call center in their whole ecosystem. So
wow.
It goes to show that there's benefits on both sides to this. And so I think just an awareness of that, I'd love to see more of that, you know, as time goes on.
Awesome. So we will have a link below the video that you're watching right now. You can just look down into the description and click not only to learn more about David Essary. Did I say that right?
That's right.
David Essary. It's hard.
It is, yeah. Yeah, oh, trust me, you did much better than a lot. Yeah, just happy to be recognized.
Coming from somebody named Titania.
Right, right.
I really want to get everybody's name spot on.
Right.
We'll have more about David, Accord Systems, and then the Bobby Dodd Institute.
Thank you.
Because the internet's a really cool place.
Yep.
You can spread the love very quickly.
Absolutely.
So I just love to rally the troops.
That's right.
You, as the CEO, have a duty to be an excellent leader and foster culture and vision. Are there any ways that you do that intentionally?
I would like to think I lead by example, and it's not easy, and I'm not perfect at it, and it's always a work in progress. We have a great group, and I attribute 100% of my success in my career to people around me. I have a great partner, and I'll mention by name, Steve Helsing, that was in a prior business and is my business partner, and his son Ryan Helsing, that are my partners in Accord Systems now. And I think one of the things in going back to, if you're going to go the entrepreneurial route and start your own business, it's so important, if you're going to have a partner, and I actually advocate for that, that you choose that person so wisely and make sure, because it is a marriage. It's like, it's certainly like a marriage. You're living with that person. You have to get along. You're going to have your disagreements. You have to learn how to work through those and have respect for each other. And I've been so blessed to have a great partner now for 17 years. And I've done other partnerships that didn't go so smoothly. And so you choose that person wisely and know that also their characteristics from the strengths and weaknesses, and we all have strengths and weaknesses, match up well to your strengths and weaknesses. And I'm the more public social side of what we do, but you have to have an operational side to any venture that you do, and Steve is a phenomenal operational visionary guy, and it just works very well together. So, to your question, from a leadership perspective, I'd like to think we lead by example. We're probably not the in-your-face, hey, here's what we're going to do. I think we just try to set a good example for how to treat people, and that filters down into your operational plans and strategically how you function as an organization.
Awesome. Is there anything else, while you have this platform, you have this time, you have everyone's attention. Like, what would you like to say?
Well, my buzzword has been empathy lately, for sure, and you know, especially in light of some of the events we've had socially, which are scary the last couple of weeks. If everyone would take a second to be more empathetic to others, regardless of what their wishes are. And it occurred to me this weekend, I don't know, I have some of my best thoughts when I'm on my tractor or mowing the lawn or things like that, where I can kind of just go through the motions and free up, you know, my mind. And it occurred to me, because everyone likes to hang on the First Amendment and the right to free speech, and I totally agree with that, and we don't ever want to lose that. But you have to realize that if you're saying something that's going to be offensive to another group, there are ramifications to that. And you know, watching what played out in Charlottesville this weekend was so disturbing. And ultimately, I would just love to see everyone have a little bit more respect for difference of opinion, but not feel like it's something that we need to kill each other over. You know, it's a little scary having young children in this world now. I feel like we hit the rewind button 75 years this weekend.
Right?
And
it's
where
terrifying.
did that come from?
It's so scary.
Yeah, and I would love to challenge our leaders from the top down in this country to set a better example for trying to be empathetic to others and find common ground. We have a lot more in common than we have that's different. And if we would all focus on those commonalities versus those differences, I think the world would be a better place. Absolutely. And we're never going to be perfect, and we have to respect that. But if we would at least put an effort towards that, it would be a better place.
Yeah. I saw a pillow in Decatur last night, go figure, and it just said, "Teach peace."
Yeah.
Like, yeah, how about we do that, people? Let's do that instead. And as you were talking, two Bible verses just came to my mind. One is, you know, death and life are in the power of the tongue. So true. And then another one of my favorite proverbs is, a sharp tongue pierces like a sword, but words to the wise bring healing.
Right.
And hopefully I didn't butcher that too much. But, you know, it's so true. So use your words wisely.
Yeah.
Curate a culture of peace and love.
That's right.
Be empathetic. Do unto others as you have them do unto you. It's not that hard, people.
It's not that hard.
It's not that hard.
I actually have a challenge I would issue. This occurred to me this weekend too. It's one of those random thoughts. I live in Milton, in kind of an equestrian rural area, and grew up in farming communities. And for some reason, I'm in this cycle of country music again. So, and you see these guys driving around their big pickup trucks with flags hanging out of the back of them. I want to see a pickup truck in the city of Atlanta that's got a peace flag.
Yes.
Hanging out of the back of it. And I thought about doing it with mine, but I don't have a peace flag and I don't drive my truck much. But
Amazon.com.
There you go.
Be there in
That's
2
right.
days with Prime.
That's right.
I am now challenging you.
Challenge.
I want to see a picture.
I will be the guy that does that then this weekend. I'll get on Amazon this afternoon, find the peace flag, get it on the way, because it should be available, unlike the glasses that everyone's buying right now for the eclipse.
You know what? I'm gonna double back on that challenge. I'm gonna get a peace flag from Amazon as well and hang it front porch of my house.
I like it.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Awesome. David, it has been an honor to spend time with you, get to know you, hear more about you both personally and professionally, and I hope to keep the conversation going.
Thank you. It's been great.